Story 1. Have any of these Republicans of Reddit questions ever received many answers from actual Republicans of Reddit rather than from people like me who just speculate, or from former Republicans? We get these questions all the time, and the answers are never satisfactory. Story 2. You can ask this same question about all of the zany things that have come out of his mouth and still not get a rise out of many people who support him. Story 3. If a leader openly says they do not care about division, they are basically admitting division is the strategy. Edit. I woke up to more than 2,000 upvotes and my first award. Thank you, everyone. It is fitting that a comment on division brought people together. Story 4. I remember in his first term reading a long piece about Jim Mattis, who was his defense secretary, I think, or held a similar position. He was a Republican who broke with Trump because he said he had never seen a president before actively trying to divide people instead of bringing them together. But that is a senior Republican who knew George Bush and Mitt Romney. I guess the average voter is different. Story 5. He will not go to war with Russia, but he will turn against his own country. Story 6. During the COVID-19 pandemic, when he was asked a softball question about what message of unity he had for the American people during those uncertain times, he chastised the reporter and called it a terrible question. He has never cared about unity. He only governs for Make America Great Again. Story 7. You saw how quickly they were all willing to declare war on the left. They want that rhetoric. Story 8. Obama was the most divisive president in American history. They will say this without a hint of shame or self-awareness. Story 9. I will throw my hat in the ring. I lean conservative by temperament and belief, though I consider myself a moderate centrist. I voted for Donald Trump in 2016 because I was 9 years younger and he said and did things no other politician had. It is now clear to me he is yet another sham of a person vying for power in a festering offal of better people, most of whom will not have their names remembered. I cannot change what I chose, but I will act differently now. Story 10. These are the same people who accused Democrats of being evil and of stealing from taxpayers for wanting to provide school lunches to underprivileged children. Story 11. I am a Republican and I am not happy with anything. I did not want Donald Trump the first time, the second time, or the third time. I want this country to be respected and our people to prosper. I want my children to have a future, and I want to provide for them as much as possible. None of this is happening. I do not trust the political left, and I do not trust supporters of Make America Great Again. Make America Great Again has become a disgrace to the Republican Party and should be considered a fringe movement within the party. The idea to make America great again is appealing, but what is happening is dividing the country, and it is disgusting. Story 12. It is what we have been hoping to hear and why we voted for him. Republicans. Story 13. I am a never Trump Republican. How do I feel? Nothing has changed. Trump does not want to heal the divide in this country. He has said that for 10 years and continues to fail as president. Story 14. I watched the interview and I do think this is taken out of context. It's important to see the whole answer to the question because, honestly, it's actually worse. Earhart. Because we have radicals on the right as well. We have radicals on the left. People are watching all of these videos and cheering. Some people are cheering that Charlie was killed. How do we fix this country? How do we come back together? Donald J. Trump. I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right are often radical because they don't want to see crime. They're worried about the border. They're saying, we don't want these people coming in. We don't want you burning our shopping centers. We don't want you shooting our people in the middle of the street. The radicals on the left are the problem. They are vicious, horrible, and politically savvy. They want men's and women's sports. They want transgender for everyone. They want open borders. So I'm pretty sure Mussolini said he couldn't care less about getting in trouble for his following comment. But his comment is abhorrent regardless. We need to be better about not twisting people's words, mostly because we don't have to with everything that dribbles out of that stroke victim's lopsided mouth. Story 15. I don't know if you've seen this recently, but they kind of want everyone on the left dead because some nutcase assassinated someone. Story 16. If they did not turn on him for being an obvious child molester and an insurrectionist, they are probably fine with him not caring to unite the country. Story 17. I will never understand why people post questions to Republicans or conservatives in general on the AskReddit subreddit. Story 18. I tend to lean Republican, and that statement, among other things, profoundly bothers me. Story 19. Not surprised. He is saying the quiet part out loud. The ruling class needs the working class fractured. It is how they stay in power. Story 20. People on the right who preach civil war receive praise on their social media. People on the left are losing their jobs for failing to show sensitivity toward a man who preached division. These are wild times. Story 21. I am a registered Republican. I did not vote for Donald Trump. I like Thomas Massie if that helps to put me in a box. In response to the question, it feels awful. Story 22. Please stop. Every day there is a post that begins, "Hey Republicans, what do you think about?" They are not here and are unlikely to engage. They find no value in sharing their thoughts with liberals and are comfortable staying in their conservative bubbles on Reddit. Most of these posts are not phrased to encourage honest responses. They usually read like an insult, for example, "Hey idiots, how do you feel that your president is an idiot?" I know most of these are just karma farming, and I dislike Trump too, but much of the rhetoric here is performative. Either stop targeting Republicans or find a genuine way to engage. This is not it. Story 23. I think you are seriously underestimating how sinister what he was implying is. His goal is to remove the other side from existence, and his party supports this. Also, I don't think very many Republicans are going to respond. Those that do will get downvoted to hell. These threads are always a weird circle jerk. Story 24. They don't care either. Whatever Savior Daddy Trump says. Story 25. I feel embarrassed and ashamed every time he opens his mouth or tweets. Story 26. A president's job is not just about policy. It is about leadership and unity. If you openly admit you do not care about healing division, you are basically giving up on half the country. Division does not magically fix itself. It takes effort, dialogue, and empathy. Saying "I do not care" shows where the priorities really are, and sadly they are not with the people. Story 27. Donald Trump is the reason we have reached a point where people are killed for holding different political opinions. He fostered this extreme tribalism. Story 28. They won't reply because leopards are currently eating their faces. Story 29. This "hey, conservatives?" Karma farming is so fucking lame. Laughing out loud. Story 30. He said he was going to get in trouble for this and honestly couldn't care less, before talking about how he views extremism. When he said couldn't care less, he meant he did not care about getting in trouble, not that he did not care about restoring the country. There are too many valid criticisms to muddy the waters by making things up like this. Story 31. What response can a Republican give other than "Trump is the devil"? That will not get 1,000 downvotes. These questions are fucking stupid. Yes, Trump says stupid shit. We have known this for over a decade. Story 32. If the country were to unite, he would be deposed. He is doing everything he can to keep us fighting each other instead of focusing on him. He gets to be the face of the Make America Great Again movement and of those who are riding it for the grift. Story 33. He is just saying what they are thinking and giving them permission to act out their sick, violent fantasies. Story 34. Just a modicum of hubris and humility would do wonders to tone down the rhetoric. But he is constitutionally incapable of self-reflection. Story 35. He has always been a divisive figure, but releasing those Epstein files might unite the country. Story 36. Yeah, obviously. Why would he want to undo the hard work of him and his cronies? Story 37. Trump has no appeal as a centrist. His support comes from the far right. He is choosing power over humanity. Story 38. I live in the United Kingdom. The Republican Party appears to be a proto-fascist party. Am I correct? Story 39. Hi. I'm a registered Republican. I have not been considered a Republican by other Republicans for over a decade. In 2020, many friends fell off the deep end on Facebook and began repeating QAnon and coronavirus disease 2019 conspiracies. What do I think of it all? I did not vote for Donald Trump in 2012, and I did not vote for him in 2020 either. I remember telling people long ago that Trump was dangerous and that his rhetoric would get people killed. In all honesty, I am probably not a Republican anymore. I doubt you are going to hear a Make America Great Again supporter give the heartfelt come to Jesus post everyone desires. I do have conservative ideas. I believe there is an upside to tariffs. I also think undocumented immigrants are a problem, but I do not support rounding them up with masked gunmen and beating people. I prefer finding a way to put them on work visas instead. There was also a stint in the 2024 election where I felt overburdened by identity politics from the left, which I do not oppose but which does not resonate with me. I offer my support, but I do not base every opinion on the struggles of others. I have my own. All in all, I do not feel I align well with either party anymore. I find myself voting left and preferring blue candidates because they at least have a more compassionate message. I also feel that the left is currently focused on surviving. Roast me, I guess. Story 40. I am completely unsurprised. Anyone who bought his president of peace bullshit is a goddamn moron. Story 41. Today's Conservative Party is a white Christian fascist. They think they want to rid themselves of brown people and liberals. But in reality, it is brown people and liberals who innovate, work hard, and carry this nation on their backs. Story 42. Never forget what the king of political violence said after a deranged Make America Great Again supporter shot and murdered Minnesota Democrats in June. I think the governor of Minnesota is so whacked out. I'm not calling him. Why would I call him? I could call and say, "Hi, how are you doing?" The guy doesn't have a clue. He's a mess. I could be nice and call, but why waste time? Story 43. This is the worst president in my lifetime, and it is not close. The second worst is Trump version 1. Story 44. Let me put it this way. The fact that they still allow their name to be associated with the party is telling about their personal code of ethics. I can respect many conservative values, but I cannot respect anyone who looks at what is happening now and supports it. Story 45. I do not care what he said. He is my president, and I wish him as much success as Charlie Kirk. Story 46. It was a right-wing on right-wing, white-on-white crime. No left-wing people were involved, yet here we are taking all the heat again. Story 47. We may have already seen our last fair and free election. Story 48. Trump is an eliminationist. His aim, and that of his supporters, is to get rid of all contrary voices. Story 49. I am a real Republican. I am disappointed. The war in Ukraine continues. Gaza is still suffering and people are dying. When did tariffs become the entire presidency? Dogecoin is a complete failure. Elon Musk laughing out loud. Yeah, this sucks. I wanted Nikki Haley, damn it. Story 50. Give the guy a break. He is under a lot of stress about the Epstein files finally revealing the truth. Also, he had a mini-stroke. Story 51. The racist, sexist, and fascist Republicans who are opposed to the United States of America do not care. Story 52. If Republicans were interested in credible information, they would not be Republicans. Story 53. Donald Trump is cementing his legacy as the worst of all time. Story 54. Sorry, I can't help edit or repeat potentially defamatory claims about a real person. Neutral alternative suitable for Azure text-to-speech. They're probably too busy to respond here. Story 55. My realtor and his family, all of whom are from Bolivia, believe Donald Trump is doing a fantastic job and is making things better for the United States. Story 56. Conservatives are living in an ocean of denial and psychosis. Story 57. He is an orange piece of shit and the cause of all this divisive, violent, unnerving bullshit. Story 58. By Stephen Miller's definition, Charlie Kirk, who spread hate, divisiveness, and fear, would fall into the category of a domestic terrorist. Stephen Miller advocates for white pluralism and is the architect of the Trump administration's illegal tactics using immigration and customs enforcement that terrorize communities. The grand old party is completely in control and should shoulder responsibility for the economy and government being degraded by the Trump administration, and for society becoming more unraveled as a result of their policies. The man who killed Kirk appeared to be a seemingly normal white male, educated, a gun rights advocate from a Republican, Trump-supporting family, who had never broken the law before he pulled the trigger last Wednesday. The irony is that Kirk was shot at the moment he was debating a moot point about increasing gun violence. In the midterm elections, citizens must vote Republicans out of office and restore control of both the House and the Senate in order to lawfully impeach Trump a third time and remove him from office. We need to restore dignity, decency, and the rule of law to the White House. Story 59. A great president unites a country and makes it stronger. Donald Trump is a total failure as president. History will remember him as such. Story 60. This is what they voted for: to remake America into their vision of a white Christian bastion filled to the brim with cruelty and pain. So why should they be disturbed when their dear leader speaks plainly? Story 61. They do not care either. They want a pure white nation. Story 62. I am not a Republican, but personally I am surprised that he actually told the truth. Story 63. I am more concerned about a Fox News commentator calling for the killing of homeless people and receiving no pushback from his colleagues. Story 64. Supporters of Donald Trump are often unaware of his actions or statements. Story 65. I was reading a book recently that described people in Ron DeSantis's presidential campaign talking about focus groups and how Trump supporters were told things that contradicted their beliefs, and then performed mental gymnastics to agree once they were told Trump had said it. At this point, there is nothing too extreme for Trump supporters to accept. They are like some Germans who still deny or justify atrocities committed by the Nazis even after the Allies forced them to enter Auschwitz. It is important to understand that they blame their life disappointments on progress by minorities. They are zero-sum thinkers. Trump supporters believe that gains by minorities since the 1960s came at their expense and that Trump and the Republicans will stop that from happening. This belief rests on the idea that the country was founded by white Christians and that opportunities created by their forefathers belong to them. So anytime a Jewish, Black, Hispanic, Mexican, Asian, gay, and other person gets into a good college or job, they see it as something stolen from them. That is what animates them and drives them to extreme behavior. They do not see themselves as racist. Guns, abortion, taxes, morality, and socialism are just lipstick on a pig to hide what truly motivates these people. Story 66. Asking this question here is an exercise in futility, and you know it. Story 67. I have seen this interpretation from many people, and it is incorrect. When he said he did not care, he meant he did not care that his next comments would get him in trouble. He was referring to the sentence that came before. I am going to get in a lot of trouble for this, but I do not care. He then criticized the political left, which explains what he meant. You can tell from the way the words followed one another that he was referring to the previous statement. Yet many people have misinterpreted this, including several news outlets. I know posts like this usually attract downvotes, but the widespread misunderstanding shows how people tend to hear what they want to hear. Story 68. Is there even a Republican Party anymore? Or is it just a group of Trump supporters? Story 69. Worst president yet. He already said he is king, so it is just more of the same. Idiots will love it. Story 70. Republicans are so blinded by their hatred of anyone who doesn't fit their political mold that they don't care what the president says or does. They want to be divided. Just listen to many of the conservatives here. A user messaged me last night, calling me trash, and saying he doesn't want me in his country. How are we expected to work with people like that? They are actually insane. Story 71. Republicans do not care about healing American divisions. They enjoy watching us tear each other apart. Politicians aligned with Make America Great Again do anything they can to help the powerful and the rich. They are idiots. They cannot think for themselves and instead repeat what Fox News tells them. Story 72. The United States is not divided. Only small, fragmented parts are. Fringe groups want us to believe there are two large opposing sides, but that is not the case. We do not need to restore fringe elements, and they do not want to be restored. Story 73. Donald Trump is part of the problem. He's a childish, tit-for-tat, self-deprecating asshole who happens to be our leader. Hopefully he slips and falls from the top of his skyscraper. Story 74. I am a Republican. I did not vote for him to restore American division. I voted for him to advance policies and a political culture I want. I do not think he can restore American division, and I do not want him to waste time and political capital trying. I do not care whether he wants to restore division. I do not think any other Republican, Democrat, other party candidate, or independent can either. We are a large, diverse country, and political division is a normal aspect of that. Story 75. As a Republican, it hurts. I long for the days when we had a leader who cared about uniting people. There have been presidents from both parties who did a good job of that. It bothers me that so many Republican politicians have fallen in line and followed Donald Trump. I would have liked a president who, after the Kirk murder, called for conversation and tolerance among the public. Unfortunately, that has not happened, and it has become a blame game. The only person to blame is the shooter, not the left. Nobody is responsible for this event except one despicable individual. Instead of dividing, it is time we come together and talk to each other. That is not what our leader advocated, and that upsets me greatly. Story 76. America is already divided. No one needs to restore division. Story 77. A cultist will outright reject criticism of their cult and leader. Here is why. They have identity fusion and experience criticism as a personal attack. That explains the mental gymnastics. They were conditioned online, united by a common enemy, and offered acceptance and a sense of belonging. They will not criticize their leader if doing so would mean losing that community, and they spend so much time there that they feel unable to leave. It is a digital cult of people who spend too much time on their phones. Story 78. I have never seen anything from Donald Trump that made me think he was interested in anything other than enriching himself. Everyone else be damned. He used division to achieve his goal. His agenda is to demonize and divide. Story 79. I am a Canadian and a supporter of the Conservative Party of Canada, so I cannot give you the view of the grand old party, but I can offer my party's view. I believe Donald Trump is a disgrace to conservatives and to the right wing globally. He claims to be a conservative, but calling him a conservative would be wrong, as most conservatives, including Republicans in the United States, believe in democracy. Not a Nazi or a communist. What he really is a man who has no place being president, not just because of his ideas, but because he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and has the nerve to try to divide the nation instead of unite it. Story 80. He is not a politician. He is a career criminal using an elected office to make money. Story 81. I am disappointed in him. I did not vote for him, and he never had my support. He is the worst president of my lifetime for many obvious reasons. Story 82. The division is entirely between Republicans who say they want to hurt people for bad reasons and those who say they do not want people hurt for bad reasons. Anyone who claims any compromise is acceptable is on the side of hurting people for bad reasons. It is that simple. Story 83. You assume that Republicans actually engage in intellectual discourse that isn't already slanted toward them. Story 84. If their daddy doesn't care about it, why should they even think about it? Story 85. People often overlook that Donald Trump was unqualified and unfit for the presidency from day one. His own words reflect who he is and why he is unfit to lead the country. What president, what person who claims to love America, would have no interest in healing divisions in the country? Trump loves and thrives in chaos and dysfunction. We are the United States of America, united we stand. Story 86. Supporters of Make America Great Again love it. They are an anti-American party. Nothing matters other than putting Make America Great Again first, not the Constitution or the law. Story 87. Not a Republican. His presidency is based entirely on division. There is no aim of Donald Trump other than to divide people. Story 88. It reaffirms my belief that, despite how much other bad there is in the world, The right's number one enemy is the left, and the left's number one enemy is the right. Battling that enemy is by far their number one priority. Personal beliefs, values, and ideologies are a mere afterthought. Honestly, everyone cares much more about how bad the opposing party is than anything else. This tendency instantly discredits any view as authentic or unbiased. That's why I like scientists. They should rule the world. Story 89. Ask this in the subreddit conservative, and you will be banned. They have no interest in ending division or working together for the common good. They want war. They're too goddamn stupid to understand what that means. Story 90. Republicans will say they do not care. He did not mean it. They are as brain-dead as their dumbass leader. Story 91. The United States Civil War never ended. We decided to fight with votes and obstructionism instead of bullets and cannons. Many people who voted for Donald Trump keep Confederate flags in their garages, wear Confederate t-shirts at barbecues, and whistle Dixie when they think no one is listening. They do not seek to heal America's divisions. They want a return to armed conflict. Story 92. Well, as a Republican and not an extreme Make America Great Again supporter, I can answer that. I do not care for Donald Trump and voted third party the 3 times he ran. The issue is this: people either misquoting or partially quoting what he said and taking things out of context. We're using that as an excuse to bash him after his death and to mock it. Wouldn't you be upset too if you were holding a vigil and people walk through it shouting an expletive directed at Charlie Kirk? A lot of people do not want dialogue now, many who did before. Do I condone violence? Not at all. But here is my question. How long do you reason with people who see no middle ground? Story 93. New AskReddit meta. Trump did something crazy and contradictory. Supporters who are not on AskReddit, why do you still support him? Story 94. Are there any actual Republicans who support conservative monetary policies and similar positions remaining? The whole conservative party seems focused on spreading hatred, and anyone who does not conform to 1950s lifestyles is treated as an enemy. Story 95. Is anyone surprised? He does not care about Democrats, Republicans, or anyone. Story 96. He is a Russian asset hellbent on breaking the United States by any means while lining his pockets. He should be impeached and removed immediately. His call blaming liberals and Democrats for the death of Charles Kirk should be an impeachable offense. Story 97. What is the point? Until the face of this wet potato cankle literally falls off into his oatmeal, we are stuck with this piece of garbage. Story 98. Right-wingers' whole raison d'etre is to formulate hatred of others. Maggots agree with the orange turd. They feed off his vile rhetoric. Story 99. I am shocked that anyone thought a coup figurehead masquerading as a president who is a child molester, convicted felon, election thief, and insurrectionist would care. Story 100. They don't give a fuck. They're all about themselves and fuck everyone else. If they don't give a fuck about all the other shit Trump has said or done, why in hell would they worry about this? Story 101. Republicans couldn't care less. They do not care about the nation or the Constitution. They have proven it repeatedly. The few who do care are too cowardly to act or speak. Story 102. Frankly, this is the single dumbest question of this type that I have seen on AskReddit. They are not interested in restoring anything. If you are not a Republican, you either need to be deported, jailed, killed, or be a slave owned by a Republican. They have told us who they are and what they want for over a decade. Those who will not say it out loud will happily support it quietly until they feel comfortable enough to say it out loud. Do people still think they are joking and not being honest? For fuck's sake, wake up and acknowledge the reality of the world we live in. Story 103. I am a registered Republican. I do not like Donald Trump and never have. He has been elected twice as the lesser of two evils, and I would have preferred almost anyone else who ran in the Republican primaries. Story 104. They do not care. Make America Great Again is a cancer. They are just as hateful as their leader, and that is why they chose him. He represents everything they are. Story 105. I am tired of all the finger pointing. I have a question for everyone. Do you want us to get along? I am not asking about other people or why they are evil or deluded. I am asking only about you. Do you wish we did not all hate each other? It is just a question because I am interested in the answer. I am not trying to make a point. Story 106. You are asking a subreddit that is primarily left-leaning. You will have to ask this in subreddits with active conservative members and avoid being heavily downvoted for answering honestly. I say this to preface that this is a genuine question that could open civil dialogue, but unfortunately not here. Story 107. Not much. Any politician who says they can heal political divisions is paying lip service. How many times has someone run on the promise to unify the country? We are deeply divided as a nation. Only we can solve it. Politics rely on an us versus them mindset. That's how politicians drum up votes. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.